Citizenship on the Go. Lesson 1. American History, the Colonial Period, and Independence. Part 3. The Revolutionary War. The Revolutionary War was fought throughout the 13 states that had adopted the Declaration of Independence on July 4th, 1776. The American Army, also called the Continental Army, lost so many battles toward the start of the war that the colonists fighting to gain self-government and independence from Great Britain began to lose hope of succeeding. However, in the winter of 1776, the commander of the colonists' revolutionary forces, George Washington, made a bold decision that took the British military by surprise. In the middle of the night, on December 25th, Washington silently crossed the dangerously icy Delaware River with around 2,400 Revolutionary soldiers and made an attack on enemy troops quartered on the other side in Trenton, New Jersey. The Americans won the ensuing battle, and the soldiers fighting for independence began to regain hope of winning the war. However, even after Washington's much celebrated victory on the Delaware, it was clear that the United States couldn't win the war alone. The nation needed help from other countries. Benjamin Franklin's work as a diplomat in France, along with another unexpected victory for the Continental Army in a battle near Saratoga, New York, helped convince the French to ally with the American colonists in their fight against Great Britain. Revolutionary War memorials often depict the Marquis de Lafayette, one of Washington's greatest French allies in the fight for independence. For example, a statue of Lafayette stands in downtown Hartford, Connecticut, reminding visitors to the state capital of Connecticut's role in the Revolutionary War and of the international aid the 13 original colonies received in their efforts to gain self-government. After France sent help to the American colonists fighting for independence, the European countries of Spain and Holland also agreed to assist Washington's army in fighting the British. Both the American and the British militaries also made alliances and deals with various Native American tribes throughout the Revolutionary War. Each side used money and promises to get American Indians to fight alongside them. In 1776, the year the Declaration of Independence was adopted, a preacher named Samson Occam wrote to a British acquaintance of his to express worries about white people from both sides of the conflict, pulling Native American people into the war. Occam was a member of the Mohegan tribe in Connecticut and felt that the colonists' fight for independence had nothing to do with Native Americans such as himself. Here's a part of the letter Occam wrote to his British acquaintance in 1776.
The Indians in general everywhere are peaceable and choose not to meddle with your own contentions and quarrels. But I'm extremely sorry to see the white people on both sides using their influence with the poor Indians to get them on their side. I wish they would let the poor Indians alone. What have they to do with your quarrels?
Occam was not the only person in the 13 original colonies to express the opinion that the Revolutionary War had nothing to do with the Mohegan tribe or any other American Indian nation. Despite this, many Native American people did get involved in one way or another throughout the war, fighting for or against the British or the colonists. Civics test question. What war did the Americans fight to win independence from Britain? What war did the Americans fight to win independence from Britain? The Revolutionary War. The American colonists' fight for freedom from British control is sometimes called the War for Independence. It's also sometimes called the American Revolution. However, this major fight of American colonists against the British military is most popularly known in the U.S. today as the Revolutionary War. Finally, after years of struggle, the Revolutionary War came to an end. With European militaries helping the Americans, the cost of winning the war was greater than what Britain was willing to pay. In 1781, after a series of battles, a large British force surrendered to the colonial military in Yorktown, Virginia. In this painting of the British surrender at Yorktown, American troops are flying the victorious U.S. flag. At the time, the flag only had 13 stars, because there were still only 13 states when the United States won the Revolutionary War. As the commander-in-chief of the American military, George Washington can be seen in the background, supervising the surrender. The American military's French allies are also lined up on the left side of the painting, observing the scene. Their presence is a reminder that the colonies could not have won the war for independence from Great Britain without help. Civics Test Question. The American Revolution had many important events. Name one. The American Revolution had many important events. Name one. Yorktown. The British surrender at Yorktown marks the end of the Revolutionary War. Leading up to the British surrender at Yorktown, the Continental Army went through intense training at the encampment of Valley Forge under General George Washington. The adoption of the Declaration of Independence on July 4, 1776, made the colonists' reasons for fighting the Revolutionary War official, and many notable battles for American independence led up to the British surrender at Yorktown, including the Battle of Bunker Hill, in which hundreds of troops died on both sides, the Battle of Trenton, when Washington crossed the Delaware to earn the Americans a surprise victory, and the Battle of Saratoga, when the French decided to join the war as an ally of the Americans. The events of the Revolutionary War led in the end to American independence and to the birth of the United States as a country. After the war, George Washington was chosen to be the first president of the United States. He was elected for 2 four-year terms, serving as president from 1789 to 1797. After his second term, Washington retired from politics and spent the rest of his life managing his family's plantation in Virginia. John Adams, who had been Washington's vice president, was elected as the second president of the United States. The many ways George Washington contributed to early U.S. history have ensured that his memory continues to loom large for Americans today. Like Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, and other people who signed the Declaration of Independence or who helped write the U.S. Constitution, George Washington is considered a founding father of the United States. Washington was especially influential at the writing of the Constitution, since he served as president of the Constitutional Convention, where the document that defines the parts of U.S. government was drafted. Because of his unique roles as General of the Continental Army during the Revolutionary War and as the country's first president, however, Washington also has a special nickname that only applies to him. Only Washington is considered the father of our country. Because the President of the United States is the commander-in-chief of the country's military, for the 8 years he was president, Washington continued to oversee the Army and Navy of the USA. He was the country's first commander-in-chief. The current capital of the United States of America, Washington, D.C., is named after him. Civics Test Question. George Washington is famous for many things. Name one. George Washington is famous for many things. Name one. First President of the United States. Washington is sometimes called the father of our country because of the many influential roles he played in early U.S. history. Washington was the general of the Continental Army during the Revolutionary War. He was the president of the Constitutional Convention, and he was the first president of the United States of America. Civics test question. Who is Commander-in-Chief of the U.S. military? Who is Commander-in-Chief of the U.S. military? The President. The U.S. President is the Commander-in-Chief of the country's military. Since Washington was the first President of the United States, he was also the first Commander-in-Chief of the U.S. military. Civics test question. What is the capital of the United States? What is the capital of the United States? Washington, D.C. The capital of the United States is Washington, D.C. There are many places in the USA named after George Washington, but the country's capital city is in the District of Columbia, or D.C. for short. The full name of the seat of federal government is Washington, D.C. This is the end of Lesson 1 of Citizenship on the Go.